Let's see if he one-shots them even without the constant ult. That's going to be interesting to see. Yep, even without the constant ult, he taps him. He just taps him. This guy defies power creep, guys. This is the power creep himself, Lord Phineas. I know a lot of you guys might have seen Destin's video yesterday about the range from Lord Phineas. I commented there why that range is not going to be an issue at all, and why he's going to be way different than Twyla, as you will be able to see in this video. He's going to be universally super strong. He is like a power creep version of Lust, just for Infernal. He's a monster. He's an absolute monster. I'm going to go over his builds, his awakenings, his damage output showcase, and where he's good at, because he's very good in PvP and PVE. That's right, he is very flexible. Man, oh man, maybe they've overcooked, maybe they haven't overcooked, but this guy is crazy. So let's go over his kit, then we go into the showcase, and then I can explain you my final verdict. What do I think of him, where he can be used, because he is very flexible. Unlike Twyla, who's a one-tile range fighter, he is extremely flexible, and that his range doesn't really matter. I'll go over it once you've seen that showcase as well, because then you will be able to understand why it doesn't really matter for him, because he just does not care. It does not care. Am I seeing this right? 70% of you are not subscribed, so make sure you subscribe, not only to not miss out on any content, but also word in the streets is it will increase your summoning luck. So what are you waiting for? Like and subscribe, it will help out the channel and you will not miss out on any upcoming content. Let's get back to the video. So let's go over him himself. So his stats, insane stats, 30,000 and 7,200. Absolutely nutty, absolutely nutty. And then his skills, right? His skills, when an ally uses their ultimate, the hero gains 1 stack of Viscount's Flame, up to 5 stacks, and then on 5 stacks he has basically 125% crit damage, just as a bonus, because why not, you know, just gift it to him. And then additionally he grants crit damage to the ally if they belong to the infernal damage, if they use their ultimate. So he is like a Lust, but instead of rage regen he provides them with crit damage, straight up crit damage in that aspect. And then he has 125% crit damage for free, keep that in mind. And guess what, he has insane attack as well, right? That's already the first thing to note. And then his ultimate increases his insane attack by 50%. So he has an easy time, completely easy time dishing out damage through high defense enemies. What has been Moonton's main attempt to make difficult content? That's right, by providing us with enemies that have high resistances, which is why, for example, in PvP Lust doesn't work that well, because she doesn't get through resistances. Now he has insane attack, so he gets through resistances already through that, because guess who else gets through resistances? Because you really want to have either of two to get through endgame high resistances, and that is either you're gonna have high attack like Lord Phineas, like Valdron or Ardea. Guess what? Why are these two so strong, Ardea and Valdron? Because of their high attack. Or you want to have penetration like Silas. Why is he so strong? Because of his penetration. It's all about the defense in the end game, and he doesn't care about it because he has such high attack. And guess what? That's not all. That's not all, of course. He doubles the effect of his flame. So instead of getting a bonus of 125% crit damage, he just gets a free 250% crit damage, just for free, because he's him. That's not all. That's not all. Upon activating his ult, he deals 800% burst damage one time to one target in range, and then changes his range, his attacks to ranged. So he has a 3-tile range, which is great as well. I'll get to that as well. And removes all stacks of his crit damage bonus after the ultimate ends. So you stack up his crit. When his ult comes, he dishes insane amount of damage, and then when his ult is on cooldown, he just does a little bit of damage, not that much. Basically like every hero, right? Other than Praetus and Ingrid, they don't really rely on their ults that much. But yes, this is about his ult. There's more about his ultimate. There's even more about his ult. But let's go over this. So 1-tile range without his ult, 3-tile range with his ult, and then he has 120% magic damage. He's a magic damage dealer. And here's the big thing again with his ultimate. The additional part with his ult. His basic attacks have a 25% chance to deal 270% damage, which is a very good multiplier, especially for someone who has such a high attack and crit damage. And inflict stun on the target. This chance doubles during the ultimate, so he has a 50% chance to stun during the ultimate, and a 50% chance to have a 270% damage hit instead of 120%. And then there's more to it. Increases penetration by 7% for each burning effect on the target up to 7 stacks. So he can even penetrate. He can even penetrate enemy's defense up to, what is it, 7 times 7, 49%. 49%. Now let's go over his awakenings. His A1 increases the chance of him getting that stun to 30% and therefore 60% when he's in his ultimate, and therefore getting 60% chance to have that heavy blow hit, heavy hitting hit during his ult. But that's not all. Damage deals, he also has a chance now to basically inflict burning by himself. Now he is able to inflict burning by himself, empowering all of the infernal factions damage outputs and also his penetration through his A1 as well. His A2, a 5% attack, we take those, and then his A3 is actually quite big. When an Infernal Blast ally uses their ultimate, the talent switches to granting crit damage increase to them. What does it mean? Instead of giving 25% crit damage, he gives 50% bonus crit damage for 20 seconds to their his allies. So 20 seconds, 50% more crit damage for your Infernal Blast units. Then his A4, penetration, pretty standard. And then his A5, there's a 50% chance that he doesn't lose any of his crit damage buffs, right, at his A5. Now he is going to be a monster at A0, you will be able to see, but let's go over the gear, shall we? Let's go over the gear. He's got a luxury problem, really. And usually, when you have a unit that has high attack, right, you can opt for more crit damage, because they don't need that much bonus attack to pierce through the defense. Whereas if you have low attack, you want to have more attack and less crit damage. Guess what? He has high attack, but he doesn't really need the crit damage because he gets so much bonus crit damage for free. So you still want to go just a bunch of attack on him, stack a lot of attack on him, right? And importantly, very importantly, you want to use Soulbound Arcana on him. Because I tested it, you will see the screenshots later. Soulbound Arcana is way better on him than Infernal Roar. Mainly due to this 800% burst damage, right, that he gets when he activates his ultimate. Infernal Roar is still strong, don't get me wrong. You can also use, for example, let's see. You could even go for Ageless Wrath, right? Nothing wrong with the Ageless Wrath, but then you kind of have so much crit damage that you really want to just have as much attack as possible. So from my testing, Soulbound Arcana worked the best here for boss killing, and he's not only good for boss killing. That's the difference between him and Twyla, of course. But we'll get to that. And then as an artifact, I chose here the Wailing Skull. And then as the Lord, what we're going to do here now for the testing, I'll show you Guild Boss 1 examples, different examples of Guild Boss 1, with the Awakenings. Then I'll show you some of his potential in single target arena, just so you see his damage numbers. It is mainly to showcase you his damage numbers on single target arena, that you, when I get to the conclusion, know what I'm talking about, why he is so flexible, even though he only has a one tile range without his ultimate. You will see it in arena specifically when I go over the conclusion. But now let's go into the Guild Boss 1 run. Then we go A1 testing, and then we test A5 as well, see how much damage he does. And then we will test, I will also have screenshots, like I said, Soulbound Arcana versus Infernal Roar, and I have a big one, and that's a very important one, Twin Fiend versus Soul Cadence. That's right, this is, you will see Twin Fiend value, Twin Fiend Stong scope way up through this guy. So we got some rewards here. Come on, bring it in on the test server. There we go. let's go into it. I already prepared the run for you guys, and you will now see basically this team perform. As far as I remember, we have an A5 lost in here and some other strong units, and you will be able to see and compare his damage to all these other units. And then we will slowly ramp up his damage as well. But after the first one, what we're going to do before we go into his A1 strength and A5 strength, we will see his damage output now here with the Twin Fiend on this run, and then I will pull up the screenshots for you guys to see how well he performs with Soul Cadence, right? And how hard Soul Cadence hits with him, because you'll see, guys. You will see this guy, menace, absolute menace. Let me pull up the screenshots already for you guys, so you have that ready. When you see his insane damage numbers, this is A0 against some stacked up enemies. So character showcase, where do we have it? Lord Phineas. So no Ferb, no Phineas and Ferb. We have Lord Phineas. Here it is the A0 Soul Cadence team, and here is the A0 Soulbound Arcana team. Okay, perfect. So let me speed up the run here, and then we will get back to it once we have the damage numbers from his A0 on Twin Fiend, and we're gonna do our comparison real quick. Alright guys, for everyone wondering why I cut and the damage is so much higher now, well, I was wondering why my damage wasn't even close to where it was during the testing. Well, I did unequip my Dolores, and now I re-equipped her, so now my damage is back up. And now we have this, and let's see his damage output. So we have 170 million from him. This is one of the lower runs from the Dolores RNG, and I took in this run as well. You will see afterwards the Awakenings. This is an A5 Lust, by the way, and he performed so well. Now here is the comparison to Soul Cadence, and as we can see, there's a massive difference in terms of performance for the likes of Hex and Phineas, and if you use Zilla2 as well, when you use Phineas instead, when you use Twin Fiend instead of Soul Cadence, because Twin Fiend enables the team more than Soul Cadence does. Soul Cadence takes a lot of their damage and takes it with him. What I have to say though, as you can see, Soul Cadence's numbers don't lie. 100 million from the A1 Soul Cadence there. The Soul Cadence with the bonus crit damage from the Lord Phineas, when I did his ultimates, he did 20 million with one Wrecking Ball. So with one nuke, he did 20 million in Soul Cadence. Keep that in mind. And now we have some more testing. This was the initial testing with Phineas on an Infernal Roar set, and as you can see here, the Soul Cadence versus Phineas here, Infernal Roar set, he does way less damage, way less damage compared to without Infernal Roar. So keep that in mind as well. And then we have Lord Phineas dealing 170 million A0, very strong. Now we have to keep in mind, hold up, let's see something here. He was up against a A5 Lust and the A3 Twyla. Keep that in mind. That was the A0 Phineas, right? That was already dealing that amount of damage. Now we're going into the A1. See his damage numbers at A1. And then we're going over the A5, see his damage numbers at A5. So let's just do this right now. Let's give him his juicy Awakening 1 here and see how well he performs. And then at A5 how well he performs. And also keep in mind he adds more burnings here, so he will also benefit Infernals even further through his burning effects that he applies, especially if you use a Soul Cadence and you have an A1 Phineas. You'll see the gist. But let's just speedrun this, and I'll get back to you once we're done. Almost same damage output here. Interesting. Almost same damage output. Could be through a oh, never mind. Holy, that's the A1 Phineas. 200 mil. Am I tripping? What was the damage before? 170 million or something? That's the wrong team. A1. 200 mil. And that's the A5 lost, by the way. Now, of course, this was based around the fact this team was built for Phineas. Keep that in mind. This was built for Phineas. But still, he has even further potential. Let's continue, guys. Let's continue with the A5. You already see where this is going. And there's a lot of important points I really want you to listen to when I'm finished, because I have a lot of strong opinions and good takes in terms of Phineas that I think you should know about him and his kit and his usefulness. So let's go his A5 here. 200 million A1. That's crazy. Alright, so he will now increase his infernal team's damage more further, and he will have higher damage as well. Let's speedrun this through again, and we will be back in the end. Alright, so I did a few more runs, and as you can see, A5, he doesn't really deal much more damage than A1. This could basically mean two things, really, and that is, first up, a Twin Fiend locks him out of his damage for a long time. Second up, he got bad RNG. Third, he does his main damage in his ultimate, and he gets a lot of stacks, right? Especially in boss killing. Even without having his A5, he gets his 125% crit damage extremely fast back up. So his A5 is not as necessarily insane as his A1, which is amazing to see, especially for people that don't want to spend insane amounts of money. And then we have 160 million now on the hex. Now I didn't recall the exact number of hex damage on before his A3, so let's just put that on the screen right now so you can see his hex damage before and after he got that 25% bonus damage from his A3, so you can evaluate the extra damage your infernal characters get from his A3 as well. And now the most important part, guys. Why am I so high on Lord Phineas, even though he's infernal, right? He has 1 tile range. What is it that makes me believe so highly in Lord Phineas? I have a lot of points. I think this is the most important part for you guys to really know why Lord Phineas is a monster, really. So first up, in terms of power level, how do you think of Zillitu, right? Zillitu is a strong unit, but Lord Phineas is better than Zillitu in pretty much every aspect of the game and beyond. Why is that the case? You could say, oh, Zillitu has a better range than Lord Phineas. Well, the problem is, in the end game, right? How are they nerfing it? I already went it. How are they balancing out characters? I already went over it before with defense. So Zillitu, because she has high multipliers, but she doesn't have any penetration and any high attack, she struggles against high defense, making her suffer in GVG, which Lord Phineas will be not suffering. He's insane for GVG, you will see. As I will go over that part as well. She suffers against high defense enemies more than Lord Phineas does, and the big part is you can also use him in Epilogue, and the big part is he easily does as much damage as a Zillitu, and on top of that, he provides utility that Zillitu cannot provide for Infernals. He is like a Lust for Infernals. He is for Infernals what Lust is for Nightmare units. Now on top of that, you have to imagine, okay, well, Zillitu, yeah, you're right, I guess that makes sense. So why, but still, he's just 1 tile range, right? You can only use him for Guild Boss 1, Guild Boss 2, and how are you even going to use him in Guild Wars? I don't see it. So first up, let's go over the 1 tile range part. I already texted right under the video from Destin when he went over made a good video about his range, as he anticipated his range to be 3 tiles. I already made a comment there saying that doesn't matter. That does not matter, that range, simply because he's still gonna be extremely versatile, unlike a Twyla. Why is that the case? Why does Twyla not have the same versatility as a Lord Phineas? First up, Lord Phineas. Use cases. You can use him. You can drop him in. That's the big part. Listen, he comes in with only 300 rage missing, right? Let's see. Who else comes in with 300 range missing? And Hex comes in with 200 rage. So he basically has his ult ready when he gets down, making him exceptional for Gear Dungeon 2 to one-shot the Zillitu. Now his cost is high. If you use Eloin, you can generate cost. If you use instead of a Tidus, you can even use a Tidus with 31 cost. Right? You can just use a Baron instead of a Tidus. You save a lot of cost there. You can put him in there as well. He is insane for Gear Dungeon 2 because he extends his range. Right? He perma-stuns the opponent as well. And meaning, because in his ultimate he perma-stuns and his ult deals insane amounts of damage. Right? I'll put in a clip real quick from Arena. Yep, even without the constant ult, he taps him. Alright, now that you're back, you saw his ult, his 800% burst damage is insane. It's insane, it one-shots, bomb, nuke. And basically what that means is in hard content, in a very hard PVE content, let's go first about the PVE content, he can even, as long as the opponents do not have ranged attacks, he could even take on lanes by himself. And that's a very valuable aspect to have. Because there's not many units that can take on lanes by themselves. There is basically Valderan who can do that. Valeria who can do that because of both of them, because of their invulnerability and high damage output. And other than that, Abomination can kind of do it in easier content where the enemies are not that strong in terms of HP, but he doesn't have the damage, right? He has the damage, he has the stun, he has the range. Then on top of that, if the enemies are ranged, right, and they would hit him and kill him, you can always put a tank in front of him and just pop his ult and kill them after he pops his ult. Why is that still a good thing? Why does that? But then you can say, well, he can't hit the enemies when his ult is on cooldown. Well, the whole game is designed on being a tower defense game, and it comes with waves, wave after wave. And him having only access to that long range for PvE purposes specifically does not matter because he's insane for Epilogue, first and foremost. One of the hardest pieces of content. Insane for campaign and stuff for his ultimate. I have a good example. I have a very good example. Two good examples why that does not matter. Every unit without their ultimate, 90% of the units barely deal damage without their ult. Therefore, every unit is a very reliant on their ult to be able to deal the damage they need when the enemies comes in. And usually, you pop your ult, then there is a downtime, and then the next enemies come in and you will have your ult again, making his problem disappear. And a good segment to this, a good example of this would be Astrid. Now Astrid has even higher cost than Lord Phineas, and her damage is nowhere to be seen. She does single target damage, but you only use her for AoE because her AoE capabilities during her ult are insane. Guess what? Astrid is insane for many pieces of content, even though without her ult she does nothing. There's another one. There's another big guy that we all love and care for about. That's Comet. Insane ult cost. Without his ult he doesn't do much. He doesn't do much. But with his ult he just rinses down enemies. Right? So therefore having a downtime with his ultimate is not that big of a deal. Really, it is not. Because there's many of the best units in the game that without their ult they don't do the same as with their ult, and it is just about their ultimate. And therefore you can really use him in Epilogue, right? You can use him in Void Rift, exceptional there. Campaign he works. He can be used in Gear Dungeon 2. He can be used in Guild Boss 1, Guild Boss 2. You can use him in single target arena to an extent. Now you already saw it, and also in Guild Wars. Let's go over the single target arena and then the Guild Wars. So single target arena, as you saw from the click, he basically does fulfill a similar role that Kigiri and Salazar can fulfill with his ultimate. Basically just nuking down the opponent once they come out, right? Bam! He nukes them, they're gone when he pops their ultimate. It's the same as Kigiri does with his ult, it's the same as Salazar does with his ult, or the same as Praetus does with his lightning strike from his Lord skill. The only downside from him in terms of PvP Arena, for example, is that Infernals are not the best in Arena, right? Other than him, they don't have many good options for Arena. They get outclassed from the other factions. But he's so good that you can even run him outside of a lord position just for him to deal massive amounts of damage for your team as a DPS and as a finisher for the waves as well, if you already have enough DPS. That is for the single target arena. Now for Guild Wars, right? This is the one that you guys, a lot of you guys might be most excited about, most interested about, is how are you saying he's good for Guild Wars when he has only a 1-tile range, Ronaldo? So first up, before we go into his defensive capabilities in Guild Wars, the main reason why he's insane for Guild Wars. Let's just go over the main reason. So, and that is, look at this. I have a A0 Lord Phineas, 35,000 BP. Now the highest BP units, let's check them. A0 Jira, 32,000 BP max skills. Next up, Valdron, also a BP powerhouse, 30,000. And then Uridin, of course, we all know him. Love-hate relationship, 35.6 thousand BP. So in terms of BP, only Uridin he's basically on Uridin's level on BP. But that's not all. His awakenings for Guild Wars players, his awakenings are a lot easier to get than Uridin's, than Praetus, than Jiras, because he's a normal banner unit. So for the attack purposes, for his BP purposes already, he's insane. His BP is absolutely ridiculous for Guild Wars. So that alone makes him an insane powerhouse for Guild Wars. Now in terms of Guild Wars defense, in the defense team, there's a lot of theory crafting. Now, I highly believe that he's a lot better than a Silitu in a defense, simply because, like I said, he pierces through the enemy's defense when he is in his ult. So when the enemies come in, I, on the test server, cannot test Guild Wars specifically, right? But when the enemies come in, and he pops his ult, right? You can do a lot of theory crafting. I did it in my head already. He just wipes them during his ult, but then he has that big downtime of 900 cost. So against good players, they might be able to exploit that downtime of 900 cost, or you want to use him in a way where he's not going to pop his ultimate, where you cannot bait his ultimate, and he's just your backup plan for when a few people, when they start overwhelming your defense, some few people come through, then he pops his ult and just wipes them all because they can't get to him because he stuns them. That's one thing you could, in theory, could do. Or you can run him with a Carnelian, which would also be an option if you want to use him for the 1-tile range. Try to make use of that. I think his damage is insane. He can be exploited due to the downtime of his ultimate. Now you could say, well, Silas's downtime is also 900 and he works quite well for Guild Wars on the defense. The problem is Silas has two things that you need to consider. First up, good players are able to play around the Silas cooldown. Even though the Silas has 900 cost, their good players are able to time their attacks while Silas is not in ultimate. And on top of that, Silas has the advantage that he can generate cost while he's not in his ultimate by attacking enemies, right? Phineas, if you're not using him with a Carnelian and 1-tile range, he cannot attack, therefore cannot generate rage during his off time. Now, in terms of burst damage in Guild Wars, I could highly see him be insanely strong in terms of his damage output for Guild Wars, and maybe even but in terms of his defense capabilities, there's a lot of potential if it works, if he can and how you can exploit it. I think he can work, but it's mainly the BP. It's mainly the BP, and this is it already. So, and then there's one more downside that I want to talk about. I went over all his positives. Now I really want to go over his one negative. And this is a stupid negative that will be eradicated in half a year, most likely, and that is that he's an Infernal unit. That's the one negative, but the thing is, he might be the very unit that bumps Infernal back into the meta. He might be the very unit that Infernals needed to get back in the meta. Or maybe just if they get another Lord that doesn't lock out Infernal units from dealing damage. I could highly see him in a Piercer team instead of a Infernal team there on Guild Boss, he would probably deal 50 million more, or even more, like 250 to 300 million. I could see that, but that's the one downside, which is not really a downside, to be honest. It is not really a downside. Now, should you pull for him or not is up to you. Is a whole other discussion. I will make a separate video. Make sure to check that out. Then you will really know, depending on what you focus on, where your strengths and everything lies on your account, if he's worth to pull. Is he a good unit? Yes, I think he's better than Silitu. So if you think Silitu is good, he's better. Period. That's not even my opinion, that's a fact. And he is, like I said, a Lust. He's basically a Lust for Infernal. He's the better unit than Lust. He's just not in as good of a faction as Lust. That's the only thing. He's the better Lust in a worse faction. But factions can always change. He's way more versatile than Lust. 100%. Way more versatile. Way stronger than Lust in many pieces of content. And we all know how much people love Lust. He has more versatility on his own. He provides a lot for his Infernal teams. He's insane. Let me know what you guys think from this video alone. How you think of him. And make sure to like and subscribe. It will increase your summoning luck. For more content like this, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm sure you will benefit a lot from it too. With that said, I wish you all a blessed Monday, everyone. Good start into the week. And I'm Ronaldo, and I'm out. Peace.